Good morning, everybody, and happy third Saturday in October. It's a big week. Welcome into the Alabama pregame show brought to you by Medical Properties Trust. I'm your host, Simone Eli, alongside Nick Alvarez this morning, joining us from Knoxville. Nick, we're counting down to kickoff at 2:30, the CBS game of the week. Third-ranked Alabama at number 6, Tennessee, a big one, the one many have been talking about for several weeks now. You said you had to book this hotel like a month before the season because the expectation was that this would be exactly what we're going to see here tonight.
Yeah, no, it's packed. You could tell like there is this Town Place Marriott. I'm in, no ads, is like in a block of like two other hotels. There's not like a single free parking spot. Like there is a lot of Vols gear, a lot of Bama gear. Like I think a lot of people found a way to come to town for this one.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Like I said, kickoff at 2:30. We appreciate all the folks already tuning in early this morning to the Alabama pregame show. Top 10 matchup, really a top 6 matchup. It has been a minute since this game mattered for the Tennessee program. And it's always mattered. Let's not say it didn't matter. They've always wanted Bama, but how often have they been good enough to make this a competitive game? Not in a long time, Nick, but this one sure seems like it's going to have all the cards to make for something that's going to be exciting.
Yeah, I mean, you hear it in like just talking to people down here. I have a grandma who lives in Chattanooga, and like she's been texting me all week that like her business, like her place, people are just talking like, is this the year? They think it can be. Like our waiter last night, like even she was like, "Oh, do we really think this could be it?" Like there's kind of like that swell of like, if not now, then when?
Yeah.
For the Tennessee side.
No doubt about that. Nick Saban 15-0 against Tennessee while at Alabama. So it has been a minute. Definitely Volunteer fans chomping at the bit. I mean, Nick's grandma is texting him, y'all. So you know people are excited about this game right now. When you look at the overall matchup, Nick, what's kind of the first thing that comes to your mind? Probably got to be the quarterback play.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to start with that for both sides, right? Alabama has to contain Hendon Hooker. We'll talk about him in a bit. But the most important question for anyone, especially Alabama fans, is it going to be Jalen Milroe or is it going to be Bryce Young? There's been some ESPN reporting over the last about like 12, 14 hours that have pretty much kind of leaned to the idea that Bryce will start or at least go through warmups with the expectation that he will start, which as an Alabama fan, you kind of have to kind of wipe your brow. I'm like, phew, okay, cool. Like, not that Jalen was bad, but like this is Alabama's toughest game of the season by far. And you not only need Bryce to be there, you need Bryce to like look sharp, like he has been at crucial moments at times this year.
No doubt about that. Alabama sneaked by last week. And when you look at the performance of Jalen Milroe, I mean, there's nothing to scoff at, but it's just a different team when you know Bryce Young is playing. Here are the numbers from Milroe against Texas A&M last week. Again, great numbers. Obviously, the turnovers less than ideal, but that's a significant part of what's making this Bama team maybe not the upper echelon next level Bama teams that we have seen in years past. Nick Saban himself has said that the turnover ratio is not what he is used to, what this program is used to.
Yeah, and it's strange. Like the defense, like I don't think we can find many complaints about how Alabama's defense is playing, other than the fact that they only have 2 interceptions and they haven't recovered a fumble. For Alabama's offense, like I think we talked a couple weeks ago, like the team didn't really have an identity offensively, and then you see Bryce Young put together, one of the best halves of his career at Arkansas, and then he gets hurt, so the team kind of has to readjust again. So I think when you have Bryce eventually coming back today, or even if you do have to go with Jalen, you want to see consistency. With Jalen playing, which I think it will be Bryce, it is interesting. Tennessee has the #1 run defense in the country. Alabama has one of the best rushing attacks in the country. They've really relied on that this year when its passing game isn't working. So, like, can Bryce help alleviate some of that pressure? He scrambled a little bit too at times. Like, there's a lot of interesting things going on.
Yeah, something's got to give in this matchup. We talk about the rushing attack for Alabama. Jamir Gibbs has been pretty incredible. 360 yards, 39 carries, 2 touchdowns in the last couple games. It's just impressive to see what he's been able to do just in the absence of Bryce Young in that backfield, Nick.
Yeah, and he does it from everywhere. Like he lines up split out wide. He'll come in. Like I had a story up on AL.com before the A&M game, kind of looking at the 5 explosive runs that Alabama's running backs have had this year. And with Jamir, a lot of them are kind of that outside zone run to the short side of the field where Alabama has a numbers blocking advantage. And Jamir, who's so good at vision and anticipating the holes opening up, like he can just kind of take advantage with that shorter space and then use his speed to burn past. So like it's pretty impressive. And I asked Saban, like, did you envision Jamir coming in and being a running back, slot receiver, outside receiver, kind of all around threat? And they're like, no, but we found that role for him and he's been necessary.
Knowing that Bryce Young is not going to be particularly 100% going into this game. If he plays, we know he is banged up, coming off this injury, a lot of rehab, things like that. How important is Gibbs's role in this to get it done and just be that guy that Bryce can kind of lean on as an offensive weapon, so the pressure is not solely on him?
Yeah, it's going to be huge. And when you hear Saban talk about Bryce's injury, he mentions that you want him to feel comfortable pushing the ball downfield, kind of
Yeah,
like a pitcher with kind of a baseball pitcher with kind of like a sore arm. So if maybe they can't go downfield, 20 plays a game or have that deep passing routes, which Alabama has struggled with at times to
yeah.
create this year, that's when Bryce can take advantage of, which he has done already this season, like hit Jamir for the dump off in the flats, let him go, let him work, right? Kind of create some of those spacing opportunities. And for Bryce, I think the one thing you want to see with him coming back is the balance of him scrambling versus him
Mhm.
protecting himself. Because Saban
Yes.
said the play he got hurt on, he probably should have thrown the ball away. So,
Yeah.
like, where's kind of that balance coming in for Bryce, the competitor he is, and the atmosphere he's going to be in today?
Sure. Speaking of atmosphere today, there's a reason that Tennessee is excited. Right now, they're one of the hottest teams in the country, ranked sixth in the country. And a big part of that is this offensive output that we've seen in Knoxville so far this season. Tennessee offense ranked number one in the country at total offense and 547 yards per game, number two in scoring, nearly 47 points per game. Nick, these numbers, the fact that we're talking about Tennessee in these numbers is not something that people are used to seeing. It's just the truth.
Yeah, and what makes it even more impressive is that they've been doing it without their all SEC preseason wide receiver, Cedric Tillman. Yeah, Cedric Tillman, who got injured, I think, in week 2 or week 3 and hasn't played since, and he's not playing today. Like,
Yeah.
this passing offense is dynamic. They give it to multiple guys. I think Hendon Hooker leads the country in yards per attempt. So, like, he is pushing the ball downfield with 0 turnovers to his 10 touchdowns. Like, he is not making mistakes. He's playing very clean ball.
And it's important to put your quarterback in a position to be successful. He certainly has been that. Over 1,400 yards passing, 10 touchdowns on the year, no turnovers, third in the Heisman odds right now. I mean, Hendon Hooker has been way more than what was advertised. I don't want to say he's
Yeah.
everything that's advertised. I mean, he's way more than what we thought he was going to be. I mean, there were folks on social media, Tennessee fans, like, okay, let's just look forward to basketball season because this is not going to be it. Well, this is it. I mean, this is everything that you could hope for in Tennessee right now.
Yeah, and, like, I don't think it's expected. Like, I did a story this week on AL.com about the cigar tradition that comes with this rivalry and how for the last 15 years, you've seen some Tuscaloosa businesses profit and grow off this. And in Tennessee, it's kind of just been people kind of hanging around. Like, there's been a lot of, like, I think this is the year this week. And the Tennessee offense and team has been so good. There's one store I talked to that they said, like, there's been a supply chain issue, and Tennessee being so good has created a catch-22 because people are winning, celebrating, going to buy the cigars. Their kind of shelves are getting a little loose, and it's because no one expected this, so fans are kind of anticipating and going along for the ride.
That's a great part of this. I think there have probably been games in the past several with Nick Saban as the coach at Alabama. The Tennessee fans probably didn't even bring their cigars to the game. I mean, honestly,
Yeah.
like there were probably times where it was like, "Hey, go ahead, leave those on the shelves. We'll figure it out next year, the years." But this is the year. This is potentially the year. And when you look at both sides of the ball, Nick, there is a familiar face in Henry To'oTo'o, the former Tennessee standout. Now is doing everything for Alabama. He's really the leader of the defense on that side of the ball. To when you see I saw on College Game Day, there were some signs referencing To'oTo'o. I mean, these guys are familiar with each other. Obviously, there's the mutual respect when it comes to college football, but when you strap it on and when you're lining up against each other, I mean, listen, you're there to do your job.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's expected to see it in moments, right? But not like Henry's too good of a player. He's not gonna, have a personal foul he shouldn't have or kind of go too far. I don't just think he's that type of guy. But like we saw it 2 weeks ago at Arkansas, I didn't really see Drew Sanders in the early part of the game. He actually made the play where Bryce tried to throw the ball away and he got hurt. After that play or sack, I didn't even have to see the 42 or Sanders on his back. Like he got up, he was pumping his fist, he was going. It's like, oh, that's probably Drew Sanders making a huge play against his forward team. I would
Yeah.
expect that, like that equivalent to be there for Henry today.
Of course, absolutely. For just tuning in, it's the Alabama pregame show brought to you by Medical Properties Trust. The big one today, the third Saturday in October. It's a top 6 matchup, the Tide at Tennessee, 2:30 on CBS. Nick, when you look at what it's going to take for each team to be successful, let's start with Tennessee. If Tennessee is going to get it done, beat Alabama for the first time, a first ever Nick Saban-led team, Tennessee is chomping at the bit to get it done. What is it going to take for the Volunteers to come away with a win tonight?
Yeah, I mentioned they have the number one run defense in the country. They really have to play up to that today. Or not the number one, excuse me, one of the best in the country, one of 4 teams to not give up 100 yards on the ground per average. Like, it's really going to come down to them. Like, Alabama has shown at times this year that they'll let the moment get to them. They'll let the run that's going to collapse the entire game happen before it's stopping it short. If Tennessee wants to take advantage of the environment that the crowd's going to bring, if they want to take advantage of the fact that Alabama's coming in at a weaker point than they have been at years past, they need to make the game as tough as possible for Bryce Young coming back, assuming he plays. They need to make sure that Alabama can't silence the crowd with 3 70-yard rushes like they did in Fayetteville. Like, there's kind of that you need to have the crowd involved. You need to kind of like string the upset along, because Alabama showed at Arkansas, like, they can just show up and blow the doors off a team if a team's not ready. And then Tennessee has to, one, prove they're ready, and then two, for Alabama, because they've almost beaten themselves at times this year already.
Yep. Nick Alvarez joining us from Knoxville. His kickoff is right around the corner. Let's talk about what Alabama needs to do to get it done. It seems like, Nick Saban, he's the keeper of the keys when it comes to the mental state of his players. He knows how to get these guys prepared for a big game. But until you're going through the motions, until you're in the atmosphere, you really don't know how things are going to pan out. Obviously, Alabama's been in big games. These guys have been there, done that, bought that T-shirt, but they have to keep their head. It's going to be a wild atmosphere in Knoxville today. What, outside of maybe playing to the expectation, playing to the standard, what does Alabama need to do to get it done on the road against 6th-ranked Tennessee?
You need to clean it up. You need to just kind of have like a good game. You have one of your best games of the year to kind of beat this team, because we talked about how Tennessee's riding high. Alabama gave Texas A&M the window last week. They just completely fell apart. They can't let that happen today. Like, I think the crowd, like, eventually it's going to catch up to Alabama. Like, letting the crowd back into it, letting a team that maybe you should beat get back into it. And I think if they can get Bryce, one, keep him healthy, right? You don't want any hit that Bryce takes today, you're kind of going to freak out about. But like, if Will Henderson can continue to have a good game, Dallas Turner continues to play well alongside of him, you're probably going to see maybe a more defensive game than some people will think, with how these offenses may go. But Alabama's going to have to show up because Tennessee play fast. They're going to run. If Alabama goes a 3-and-out, Tennessee scores another 3-and-out, like, that crowd's going to get into it. That offense is going to keep going again. And I think you need to make sure that they are somewhat contained, or they're somewhat not, going crazy for all 4 quarters, like in Texas, where only the second and third the crowd made their impact be known.
You see there the Alabama defensive stats from last week, getting it done against Texas A&M, a closer game than what folks would think, allowing 20 points at home. Again, Alabama's defense, are they successful? Of course. Are they the defenses of Alabama in years past? Maybe not. But again, this is a different type of college football than what we've seen in years past. They spread it out. Throw it down the field. This is a totally different type of college football than what we've seen when Alabama was holding teams to 3, 6, 9 points back in the glory days. Looking around the SEC, some other games to look forward to today. Obviously, this is the big one. 2 undefeateds at 2:30. Auburn's going to be at Ole Miss. Ole Miss putting their 6-0 record up against the Tigers today. Georgia unbeaten, taking on Vanderbilt at 2:30. But then a top 25 matchup tonight. Mississippi State and Kentucky, Nick. And so this is really that part of the year when you start to figure out who is the upper echelon teams in the conference. And these are the games that really separate, okay, who is going to compete for an SEC title, who's going to compete for a national championship, and who's going to be out of the conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone kind of looked at the Texas A&M game last week as like the regular season championship, right, for a lot of teams in the SEC, or for a lot of the way it's going to play out in the West. And then, Alabama won that game pretty easily, considering what it could have been. I think for this game, it's like, where's the hierarchy of the SEC? Like, is Tennessee here? Like, as like Josh Heupel really done it with this team? Is Alabama really kind of on that shaky foundation that a lot of people like to think, at the very least, that they're on? Like, a lot of those questions will be answered, not necessarily, today, but I mean, it's going to kind of lead off that conversation for the second half of the year.
Yep. We will see how things go. Kickoff set for 2:30, the CBS game of the week, a top 6 matchup, and 3rd-ranked Alabama taking on 6th-ranked Tennessee. Someone will take their first loss of the year. Guys, thanks so much for tuning in to the Alabama Pregame Show, brought to you by Medical Properties Trust. For Nick Alvarez, I'm Simone Eli. We will see you back here for the postgame show. Enjoy your college football Saturday, the 3rd Saturday in October. Have a good day.
Medical Properties Trust, at the very heart of healthcare.